3.
Okay. So today I'm going to talk about Chapter 15, Editing in Other Fields. So most students who take journalism classes are preparing for careers in fields like newspaper, magazine, radio, TV, or internet. But rather than writing or editing news, many of us will actually end up in other fields, like we write advertising copy, write press release, and edit books. So this is other careers choices for journalism majors, like public relations, advertising, and book publishing. So first we're going to talk about public relations and advertising. So both advertising and PR try to influence our attitude about business, groups, people, and issues, but there are some distinctions between PR and advertising. They aren't media, but rather are just closely connected to the media. So advertising is the major way American news, and PR is one of the major sources of news in US, with about half of the news originating from a press release. So the distinction and PR. Advertising is being described as overt persuasion. Public relation is the covert persuasion. And advertising sells products like public relations good, well, person or cause. And advertising works mainly through mass media, but public relation works through news release, press conference, public events, sponsorships, and sometimes advertisement. And mass media charge for advertising space or time, but they often give free publicity. Advertising is regulated by government and PR isn't. So actually advertising is more like they try to earn money and they try to persuade people in a more overt way, but PR is trying to inform people and trying to force goodwill for organization, people, or causes. Advertising message are controlled by those who put them out, but PR message aren't. They are at the mercy of journalists. Why we need relation and advertising, a very important point is that they provide higher salary and more opportunities to journalism students. They tend to pay more than compared to media jobs and can be a good high-pay alternative to extra media, as well as a way of breaking into the magazine industry. And women tend to rise faster in advertising and PR. So if you are a journalism student and you consider a good job, maybe public relation and advertising can be good job opportunities for you. So about public relations and advertising, so we first focus more on public relations. The most important traits they look for when hiring. First is ability to write, and then is verbal skills, professionalism, maturity, poise, and appearance. Of course, ability to write is the most important skills they are looking for, because public relations, most of their job is doing the press release. So they tend to focus more on ability to write. And verbal skill is very important, and of course, professionalism. We need to write in the proper form, and we need to express ourselves in a formal way. And bad traits are the inability to work with others rather than independently, having an inflated opinion of your own writing, and inability to compromise. So if you're working for public relations, it doesn't. The most important thing is not what you're trying to express, is you need to express what they want you to express. So you need to work with others and have a good team spirit. Of course, you need to sometimes give us some of your thoughts to compromise. So let's talk more about public relations. If you write a press release, you have to write in a format. You better write in an inverted pyramid format. And the audience is most working journalists, like journalists of newspaper, city editors, and broadcast station news directors. So if you're writing press release, you need to know that your audience are actually journalists, not just like public. A news release should be accurate and trustful, and short and to the point. Quickly give the media the information. And write your press release as much as like news story as possible. So the more your press release remembers a news story, it's easier for the director for editor to recognize its potential, and the more likely is your message will get through. And don't write your press release like an ad. By focusing your press release on the ad angle and focusing regular journalistic style, you will increase your chance of being heard. And master social networking media. So if you use Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube to get your message out under your own control, it will be easier for the public to understand your message, and the possibility of the journalist report your press release will get higher. And of course, social media are free, so it's very important to master social networking media. And the quality of the publication directly affects the improvement or deterioration of the corporate image. So it's very important that you need to remember when you're writing a press release, you're on behalf of your own company or your own group. So you need to form your sentence and make sure that your language is very formal. So let's talk about advertising. After we talk about like public relations, then we move to advertising. And about advertising, first I'm going to talk about print advertising. So news departments inevitably are drained on company resources. They cost. Advertising department, on the other hand, creates the revenue to support news operation. They pay. So actually, it's like if you are doing in news department, so if you print products, and actually it costs money. But if you are in the advertising department, so you actually earn money for the news department. So it's like a circle. So like the news headline writers who try to lure the readers into the story, the ad headline writer lures the readers the awareness of paying customers. So the most important of print advertising is like news headline need to be compelling and attract the reader. Let's talk about this author called Crompton. He's a British advertising expert, and he writes in The Craft of Copywriting that the relationship between photograph or illustration in a print ad and the headline is critical to an ad's success. The two must work together, not compete. A great picture deserves a great line to back it up. Let's take Mona Lisa for example. So even the painting of the Mona Lisa needs a small bread plate underlying reading Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci. So it's very important that you need to inform and attract others' attention. And the ad designer not to let a picture simply illustrate the headline. Instead, make sure the two key parts of the ad do their own half of the work. So it's like you show a picture that you are pouring pouring a drink. But on the other hand, your headline shouldn't be just simply describe the picture. You need to provide other messages to let the audience understand. So we need to in print advertising, we need to catch quickly the reader's attention. So most readers spend no more than a second or two scanning an ad. So if it doesn't sell immediately, it is unlikely to sell at all. So the elaborate rules for writing news headlines are abandoned in advertising. So ad headlines often doesn't have verbs. Sometimes they are prepositional phrases. Occasionally, there must be no complete through at all. So if you want to attract people's attention, you can't write like a full or long sentence. Sometimes you just write like words, simple words, and combine them together just to attract people's attention. Like this example, we treat you royally, and it's very, very obvious that it's an ad for a tourist. It's a tourist ad, like we treat you loyally. And this is a tourist ad for Canada. And another example is this 4 words, flop, flop, fees. And if you want to read a full sentence of it, it's impossible because it just sounds. And it's an ad for these pills. So it is trying to attract people's attention and then tell them more information later. And of course, this car is another example. This car is actually said that readers will instantly draw to the ad. Then wondering why this car would label one of its products with this most derogatory of all comments of cars. It says car is lemon. So this kind of headline is called curiosity headline. It tries to raise curiosity to the audience, and the audience will feel curious about what it tried to say and focus more on the later information you inform them. But this type of headline is quite risky, because if you don't catch the reader's attention with this word, then they won't read the full information at all. So it's fun to write, but are risky. And another type of advertising headline is to inform. This is called news headline. And the third type is called benefit headline. So the headline helps the reader understand why he or she should be interested. And they're trying to tell people why you should buy this product and what you can get from the product. So once the writer has the reader's attention, it's time to follow up with material to show the reader why he or she should be interested and build desire for the product, and trying to convince the reader to act. And this fourth step is called four-step process, which we can call it AIDA. The first step is to attract attention and raise awareness. And then we need to build interest for the audience that they are interested in this product. And the third is to create desire. You need to persuade, or you need to tell them that this is a good thing and they want to buy these things. And the fourth is to compel action. And people with your information, they will love to buy these things and really take these things into action. So after the print advertising, we'll talk about broadcast advertising. So this kind of advertisement combine all forms of communication, written words, graphics, audio, and video to produce one of the most broadcast advertising is very efficient, most efficient broadcast advertising. So let's first talk about broadcast. And it plays tricks on listeners with sound effects and simple devices. With radio ads, it's relatively easy to play tricks, like if we add British accent and kind of sound effect, because radio only has one dimension, is sound. But however, radio have other like drawbacks, like radio ads writers merely repeat title approaches, like telling stories and have some awful act in the radio. And radio ads readers and actor often sounds unnatural or phony. So when you're listening to radio and you suddenly hear advertisement, it's quite obvious for you to recognize that it's an advertisement, and it's very common that once you hear it, you know that it's advertisement, and you don't want to hear it at all. And another one is television ads. Television ads become major productions. They are expensive to produce, and they must combine effective use of audio, video, and graphic design. And television ads compares with dozens of other for the viewer's attention, and often it sandwiches between them. So comparing to radio ads, television ads is actually more compelling. And writing and editing a compelling script is merely the beginning of the process of creating a successful television commercial. Creative video and audio production are critical to its success. Finally, editing it all together is a talent much in demand. So first we need to writing and editing a compelling script, and then we need to creative video and audio production, and after all, we need to edit it all together. And finally, let's talk about jobs in book publishing. And this is very different from advertising and public relation. And book publishing, this is another field. So English is a good major, but perhaps even better in journalism, because most books published are non-fiction. Also, journalism school is one of the best places to learn grammar usage and adheres to a style book and copy editing symbols. So if you are learning journalism, book publishing can be a good place to find jobs. And after you graduate, there are two main career paths into the book publishing world. One is to work for university press or specialty press, like this Scale Publish, for example, is a university press. And a second approach is to attempt a publishing institute. But there's some bad news in book publishing, is that entry-level jobs, major publishers are among the most competitive, and jobs are often aren't very stable. So if you're considering entering book publishing field, you should consider these two drawbacks. So let's come to question. The four-step process used in Hilton ads is one known to advertisers as AIDI. What's the third step of AIDA? Okay, yes. The answer is C. The first step is to attract attention, and then build interest, and create desire, then at last compel action. And the second question, mass media charge for publicity, but they often give free advertising space or time. Is it true or false? Yes, it's false. Actually, mass media charge for advertising, but they often give free space or time for publicity. And that's all. Thank you.
As I said before the presentation, this is important for you to understand, and I wish we had some PR advertising courses for you currently. As you know, we're adding an advertising major starting in the spring, or in the fall, I mean. And so hopefully you'll have a chance to take an advertising course. If I were here teaching it, I would teach you an advertising course that would also involve PR. Basically, I would teach you integrated marketing communication. IMC was created, I'm not sure exactly when it was created, I think in the 1980s. And I know most of the textbooks for advertising in around 1990 were focused on integrated marketing communication. The idea of IMC is that all marketing should be under one head. And when they say marketing, they mean PR is part of marketing, advertising is part of marketing, sales is part of marketing, packaging is part of marketing, even pricing and placement of product is part of marketing. So somebody should be involved in all those sorts of decisions that relate to all of those. And it did not really take off real strongly in the 1990s, even though it was the main topic of most textbooks. But now in the digital age, any organization that is not practicing IMC is an idiot. That's run by idiots. Because now everything's intermixing to such a degree that it'd be crazy not to be using IMC. Let me just show you a few examples. Let me go away from this, I think, and take you to some other places. So I'm going to stop this presentation and take you elsewhere. So in slideshow, and I'll close that. First off, you were supposed to watch this video while I was gone, if I can get there. But if you went to the Saturday, the marketing conference that I hosted, you would have gotten even more than this, because this is only like a 15 or 20-minute video. So if you went, you already got this information. If you didn't go, I'm going to try to bring up the PowerPoint that this is based on real quickly and explain a little bit better why you're most qualified to do this kind of advertising. Okay, where am I at? Pause this a second. The point of native advertising is to look like it's not advertising. Now this is native advertising I created in 1973, so it's not new. But I could have made a whole career in native advertising. This was when I took over this campaign for this mayoral candidate. There's some more pages of what I did for him. This is not the best newspaper design, but this is newspaper design from the 1973, and it's 1974 when I first got into the business. So this is a full page ad, or these various ads are full page ads that we created for this particular mayoral candidate in Tampa, Florida, Joe Kotvis, and the government official in charge of overseeing the rules for campaigning and stuff said he read half this page before he realized it was an ad, which is more or less what native advertising is all about, is to be so subtle that you don't know it's advertising. And indeed, lots of people read this kind of these ads without ever realizing they were advertising. Because this was, like say, so cutting edge, they had never seen this type of advertising before. When I took over his campaign, he was number 8 out of 8 candidates running for mayor. And we had 3 weeks to get him into the number 2 spot to get through the primary. In 3 weeks, we did bring him up from number 8 into number 2 spot. Exactly that, by using these types of ads. It was effective enough that by the time the general election came around, most of the ad agencies for the top candidates were trying to mimic what I was doing. But that's why you guys will be capable of doing this type of advertising more than a lot of other people, is that none of them did a very good job because they didn't know how to make, they had been taught in universities how to make standard ads with the big, basically some of the stuff that were shown in that last PowerPoint. Those are standard ads. Those are not the ads that work anymore. Traditional advertising is dying. And I'll show you some statistics in a few minutes to support that. But native advertising is projected to take up about 75% of all online display advertising is anticipated to be native advertising. So while this native advertising was done long before the World Wide Web, it was effective enough that everybody tried to copy me, and they were not able to copy me because they were regularly trained ad people, and they were not journalists. Journalists are best prepared for making native advertising. And so I can tell you right now that the people that go through the business department here at Scheiman will not be as well trained for an advertising career as you will be, even though you never will, even if you take not even one class in advertising. Because they don't understand how to do native advertising. But again, while this is, 45 years ago, this is what's going today. This is what's hot in the market today, native advertising. Don't look like you're advertising. That's the point. I use that for my own advertising when I ran for political office, and there were 8 candidates running for 4 positions. Some of them spent 5 times as much as I spent, but I got by far the most votes because for one thing, I knew how to do my own preparation. I knew desktop publishing, so I created this stuff myself, so I didn't have to pay anybody to do that. I knew how to go to the printer and set up low-cost web printing to produce these. This was a 4-page flyer that was in news layout. I knew how to do this, so I could do that by myself. And so the flyers were produced much less expensively than other people were paying for them. And they were using, in essence, a native advertising. People were interested in reading why I wanted to be in the city council. And so they're reading this more like it was written by a journalist, like it was part of the newspaper, than they were then looking at it like just a regular ad. And so with 1/5 the amount of money, I got a lot more votes than anybody else. So let me go take you to Facebook and show you what native advertising looks like today. In essence, the kind of prototypical native advertising in Facebook is an ad in the timeline, but the most effective ones are ones that you don't notice are sponsored. They have a little name on it, just like my ads that I took out, 45 years ago. I had to put all in each column across the top and each column across the bottom, paid political ad, paid political ad, paid political ad. It was all in 6-point type. Now you guys should have an idea what 6-point type is like. It's very small. But that's all that was required of a political ad, is having 6-point type multiple times in the case of a full-page ad, paid political ad, paid political ad. And nobody noticed that. In the same way, when you go to Facebook and go down the timeline, many of you don't notice that what's sponsored and what's not sponsored. If it's done well, you won't notice. If it's done poorly, you will notice. And so those that are done poorly are done by regular advertising people that don't know what they're doing. Those that are done well, that you don't notice they're sponsored, are done by people that have more of a knack for for journalistic type skills. This one here is sponsored. This does not look organic. To be truly native, an ad should look like a posting. It should look organic. They should not immediately identify this as an ad. Nonetheless, this is probably counted among those that are organic because it's in a timeline, but it's not really very good as being organic. Let me keep going down and find, here's another one, Harvard Business Review. Sometimes they have some really good ones. This is not a very good native advertising because it comes right out and tells you their headline is subscribe to HBR. Well, if it's subtle, that would not be the headline. That might be someplace, that would be someplace in the copy, but it wouldn't be the headline. So that almost automatically tells you this is an ad, or they would have a better headline to it. But Harvard Business Review does do a lot of good native advertising, but this is not an example of it. Let me see if I can find one that is a good example. Here's another one. More or less, this is pretty good. It has it is about an event, but it's at least the headline is about the event. And so if you're interested in this sort of thing, you might be interested in it, and you might perceive this as not an ad, possibly. It's not, it's a little bit obvious, but not exactly obvious. And so it's a little more, in other words, what did the presentation say about the difference between PR and advertising? It said advertising is overtly promotional and PR is covertly promotional. Well, a good organic ad is paid for. In that sense, it's an ad, but it's covertly promotional. And that's why I said earlier that the difference between PR marketing is closing, because good native advertising, which is again projected to make up 75% of all online ads, all online display ads, in other words, not search ads. They pretty much just divide online advertising between search ads and display ads. And so this is not a search ad, so it would be considered a display ad. Anyway, so you have the skills, you're being given the skills to do this kind. In fact, the most effective ads are video ads. They are the most effective. 95% of all executives responding to a survey recently said that video advertising is the most effective advertising. Video organic or video native advertising is among the most effective advertising online. So if you can make a video that promotes your organization covertly and make it look like it's not an ad, then that's the ideal. A video that is interesting, that draws attention, and is not overtly advertising. One of my favorite ads that I haven't seen a lot of them recently was a series of ads put in by a company that in fact, they probably aren't advertising because they were too good. They don't need to advertise anymore, probably. A company that was doing videos for countries and other organizations with a drone. They were flying a drone over a country and promoting the tourism for different countries. I suspect, as I said, the only reason why they're not advertising now is they have more business than they can handle because their ads were so good. Native advertising, meanwhile, came out of another, it is relatively new. Just the last few years have they really started. I mean, like I said, I used native advertising 45 years ago, so that obviously isn't real new. But as far as being a trend, it's a new trend. But it sprang out of what we call inbound or content marketing. Those that went to the conference or who watched the video that I asked you to watch will understand what content or inbound marketing is. Anybody can tell everybody else? What's inbound marketing like? Or content marketing? Anybody? If you came to the conference or watched this video, you should know that. I also covered it slightly in the media history course. Anybody know what that is? Don't be afraid. Okay, native advertising, or rather, excuse me, inbound marketing is free postings in social media primarily. Or at least it starts there. That's the most common, is to just use your own social network. But it was so effective that the social media realized they should be selling that. They should be selling. So when I put on with one of my Facebook sites that is commercial, as soon as I put a posting, I get a message, wouldn't you like other people to see this? In other words, my network is only 4,000 strong. And so they're saying, do you want us to put this on other people's sites that are not part of your network? And so if I say yes, they will ask me to pay a certain amount or bid on an amount. They can still go pay per click on this. They will ask me if I want to pay some money to spread my free posting to sites that are not in my network. That makes it native advertising. So it can be exactly the same content as the free posting I put on my Facebook site or on my Twitter feed or on my YouTube channel. It can be the same advertising, or excuse me, the same free content, but now I'm paying for it to be put on timelines and Twitter feeds that are not part of my network. And so that's what had led to this big trend, was that free promotion, again, more if you had to compare the two, you'd say that social media, free social media marketing is really a PR function. As you're putting together postings for a social media, that's PR. That's not advertising. Anybody and PR people are much better at doing social media postings than advertising students are, advertising graduates, because postings are supposed to look interesting. They're supposed to be covert in its promotion. If you're too overt in your promotion, all the experts say you're not going to be as effective if you're covert than if you're overt instead of covert. You do not want to look like you're advertising when you're putting free postings on, and you certainly, in the same way, you shouldn't be looking too much like an ad when you're paying for that native advertising that's supposed to be kind of like the free postings in their effect and in their content. So let me take you back to this PowerPoint and again, just review very quickly what has happened with the inbound marketing. So inbound marketing, if you look at this, I'll pull this graphic up. Let me go ahead and enlarge it, I guess. So this was from a couple of years ago, still going the same direction. This one asks basically, where are you going to be spending your money in the future, in the next 6 months or whatever. And you see number one was social media. Now this doesn't mean they were paying for advertising. That's not what they meant. But basically when you're shifting your budget, it might include paid advertising and social media, but also you do have to budget for content marketing, even though you don't have to pay to put it in your social media. You still have to pay staff to create it. If you're going to do a good job, if you have somebody blogging, for example, on behalf of your company, you have to pay the guy's salary. And so there are costs for free marketing, same as there is cost for PR, right? So even though PR is free, you're paying staff. So here, the very first thing where they're going to put their budget was social media. Second was virtual events like webinars. Third was search engine optimization. Fourth one then was paid search. So that's clearly advertising. And then, public relations and other sort of thing. And direct advertising was falling off the edge off to the right. And there's good reason for that. Let me show you another chart. This one you might have seen if you watched the video or came to the conference. This survey, let me admit, it's of 6,000 executives, but they're basically people in the database of HubSpot, and probably leans towards America quite a bit, although it is an international company, but probably the database was skewed towards America. But you see that the difference from just 1 year, in 2013, about 60% of the companies were practicing what inbound marketing or content marketing, almost synonymous, not quite, but almost. And within 1 year, it jumped from 60% to 80%. And that was 2014. So essentially everybody does it now in America. Anybody who's not doing inbound marketing in America is way behind the curve. So, because again, where they were 80%, jumped from 60 to 80% just in between 2013 and 2014. And it's because of this. This is where they're getting their leads, where they're getting their, where they're getting people's contact information, and where they're, a lead isn't necessarily a customer, but it's a potential customer who has expressed interest in your company, basically. And how you interact with that lead depends on the type of company you have, obviously. But you see what has happened in orange at the top is the percentage of leads that they get from free content or inbound marketing. In other words, again, social media, free social media, not paid social media, free social media, blogging, search engine optimization, all that sort of stuff. What they're trying to do is get you to voluntarily come to their website and voluntarily give them your contact information, with which they then use email to develop an ongoing relationship with you. That's the essence of inbound marketing. They want you to become their friend, and they want you to accept their free offers of, to come to their blogs, come to their webinar, accept their free ebook, do something to begin a relationship with you. Anyway, so among those 6,000 people who responded to the HubSpot survey, up between 42 to 48% over the last few years are getting most of their leads from free inbound marketing. And so what is that? That's basically PR work. It's not your traditional advertising at all. And if you look down the blue line, you see outbound marketing, which is in essence traditional advertising, telemarketing, stuff that very invasive sort of promotion. And so in 2014, that had dropped down to about 22 or 23% of all leads were coming from paid advertising and other outbound marketing. So inbound marketing was up around 42, and outbound marketing around 22. And in addition to that, let me jump forward. Inbound marketing cost about 62% less per lead. So it costs you about 1/3 as much to get a lead through inbound marketing as it does through aggressive advertising conducted in the traditional way. So again, inbound marketing was free marketing, and now this new trend of native advertising mimics the content or inbound marketing. Again, in the example of social media, it's the same content. You put free content on as part of your inbound marketing or content marketing strategy, and you pay for that same content if you're going to use it as native advertising. So you who are learning how to write journalistically, you who are learning how to do video, are positioning yourself for the future of marketing, and you don't even know it. But you are better prepared than people going through our business department, because they are learning the theories and you're learning the tactics and the skills. So who's better off? I can tell you, you can read one book and learn the theories. They can't read one book and learn the skills. You're the ones with the skills. They're the ones with the theories. I would, if I were looking for somebody to hire as an employer, I'd be hiring you, not them. So you need to understand what the possibilities are out there, and this is an increasing possibility for you to pursue. Again, there are some strategies to learn, but there are lots of free publications on the internet, and I mean, basically, most, and I've had like 12 chapters now published in, now it's about 7 books, I guess, in the last 2 years about this. So I'll be happy to let you read my chapters if you want to know more about it. But I think I understand it better than just about anybody because I'm looking at it from a perspective of somebody who has lots of experience in traditional advertising. But basically in 2008, when I saw what Obama did in achieving the U.S. presidency, I figured I needed to understand what it's all about. And so for the last 10 years, that's been one of my primary focuses of my research has been marketing in order to save the newspaper industry possibly, or not necessarily the newspaper, but the news industry, because they don't know how to do it themselves. They haven't figured it out. Or be able to do something on my own to help put them out of business. I'm going to do it myself. So I think that's probably, well, the other thing, going back towards the back about video, let me go back and talk about video a second. Well, here, let me stop here a second. This is when you do content marketing, you end up with a lot of content for your website. In other words, if you do blogging on a regular basis, all those blogs get added to your website. They should be added to your website. You should not accept a free blog site. Your blog should be in your website because what you're trying to do is get people to come to your website. Also, blogs on your website make much more content for a search engine to find you. In other words, if you have lots of blogs, when somebody does a search for a specific thing that happens to be one of your blogs, they can come to your website. So it just gives you more entry points to your website. The more pages you have, the more entry points you have for searching. And so what this chart here indicates is that if you have 1,000 pages of content on your website, you have 3,000. You're likely to have 3,500% more traffic than if you have 50 pages. Now that's a corollary. That's correlation, not necessarily causation, but I believe there's a lot of causation built into it because, like I said, you have more entry points on search engines. You have reasons for people to come back to your site. It allows you blogs, for example, give you some thought leadership within your industry. There's just lots of reasons why, why this correlation is also representative to some degree of causation. So 1,000 pages, 3,500% more traffic. The next slide shows 1,000 pages, 1,500% more leads. In other words, 15 times more leads if you have 1,000 pages than if you only have 50 pages. And so content is what you want in modern marketing. Who can create content? Marketing students in the business department or journalism students in the journalism department. I'd vote for you guys because you guys are building the skills necessary for good website content, which is what this reflects. The other, again, I wanted to talk again about video just a second. Let me get to that site, or that slide. Let me stop in this one a second. So what we find is kind of this is my own graphic here, but it's kind of a circular situation. The more marketing tools you use, in other words, blogging, social postings, webinars, ebooks, all that sort of stuff, the more tools you use, the more things you have to promote in social media. The more stuff you promote in social media, the more traffic comes to your social media sites, but also you should be linking that with your website. So the more traffic you get in your website, the more traffic you get to your website, the more motivated you are to use more tools, content marketing tools or inbound marketing tools, which lead to more social media messages and so forth. So it becomes a spiral that can greatly affect your bottom line. Again, going on to find the video slides I want to show you. So again, the survey of executives was that 95% of the executives said that video is still the most powerful form of advertising and marketing. So if it is, why aren't more people doing it? Partly because they don't have the skills. Another survey that I've followed over the last 3 years, again, 90% of the executives said they wanted to use more video, but in the next year's survey, it was still around 45% were using video. And so despite the fact that year after year they said we need to use more video, they had the same percentage were using video. The other ones cited things like they needed more training. That was the main thing that they deducted out of it, was a need for more training. I think they don't have the right staffing. So people in this room have the skills that they need. They need people who can create good marketing videos for them. And so they're not, even though they, like I said, 90% say they want to do more video marketing, only 45% are actually doing it. And that's that's happened, that same statistic has been solid for the last 3 years. They all say they want to do more, and only half of them do it. So that again opens the doors to people like you. And by the way, there's lots of sort of videos that are very useful in marketing, and some are very easy to make. That if these companies just understood how to the strategy of videos, they could do it without very much training. For example, one survey, I don't have it on here, I don't think, in this PowerPoint, but people even customers even like videos of other customers talking about the product. Even though they know it's, they were selected out of maybe lots and lots of potential customers, they want to see the endorsements by people. They want to see how-to videos. How do you use this product or service? There's all sorts of videos that they want that are very useful on the internet. In this slide here, it talks about how much more effective it is than text. When somebody watches a video, 65% watch more than 3/4 of the video, which is a much higher rate than those who read text in a marketing post. Conversion rates are much higher. According to 70% of the marketers, the conversion rates are higher, and indeed in actual use, the effectiveness of landing pages. A landing page is where you would go if you had a social posting or something. You take them to a special landing page that relates to why they might come to your website, such as a special offer. That the results of a landing page with video is 80% greater. So those who felt like it was more effective were right in direct experimentation. A landing page video makes the effectiveness of that page 80% greater. If you put a video in an email, that increases the click-through rate, that is the rate in which they click on a link to your website, by 100 to 200%. So a video in an email will double or triple the effectiveness of your email. It also makes the content around the video more effective. In other words, if you have a video on a page and you also have text, then they found in research that the text is also better read and more effective if it also has a video on the same page. And so they're more likely to go to the page and to spend some time in the page if there's a video. They'll watch the video, and then they'll want to read the text. And so the best page is a mixture of text and video. And it increases social media engagement by 1,000%. So if you put a video on social media, it's 1,000%. It's not just that the video on social media is a lot more effective than one with a graphic, but also indirectly, when you add all the aspects about how effective it is, how much reach it has, video has far more reach than pictures and text and so forth in social media. So overall, its engagement is 1,000 times greater. And a Google employee did a test. He wanted to see what was the key to page one, to getting on page one of Google. And so what he did was analyze, at least one of the things he did was analyze what percentage of the Google pages had video on them. The page one search listings had video on them, and then compared that to the overall number of pages on the internet that have video. And what he found was that if you have video on a web page, you're 5,300% more likely to be on page one of a search. So you're 53 times more likely to be on page one of a search if you have video on a page. So it also relates to your search engine optimization. So that guy used that knowledge, and he made about $1 million in 2 or 3 years of creating videos, free videos on YouTube. He didn't pay for them. He with just marketing related videos on YouTube to draw people to his website, he earned nearly $1 million in a 2 or 3 year time span. Now he's a professional consultant that makes a lot of money, a lot more money than that. So I think I'll end there, but again, at least I'll end this discussion on advertising. You are being prepared for the future of marketing, and many of you will end up in marketing. You know, if you get to that point, you're going to want to read some books or read my chapters or whatever. You need to understand how to use it, but the skills you have. You just don't know yet how to use them. And that's easier, like I said, much easier to learn, you know, reading a book than it is for somebody who read a book to learn your skills. And that's why you're more prepared for the future than somebody from the business department, because they're not learning your skills. So the one other thing I wanted to mention, and I have a PowerPoint on it, but I showed that to you in the History of Media course, a PowerPoint on Author 2.0. So today's presentation talked about a future, how you could use your skills to get into the book industry, but it failed to tell you about Author 2.0. You may remember what Author 2.0 is? The presentation today, based on the book, and everybody, you know, I'm not saying the presenter did wrong because she made the same content, she gave the same content as other people that presented this page. And so without even looking at it, I'm very sure that that's all she was given in the book. So the book talked about commercial and academic publishing. And that covered most publishing, but it does not cover specifically Author 2.0, which is self-publishing. And if you can think back to that presentation I made in History of Media, if you took that from me, most of you did, it talked about how some people are becoming millionaires by publishing their own books. And I explained at that time that if you publish your own book, Amazon will market it for you. They will charge you 30% commission, and you get 70%. So that's a pretty good split. If you write a book and sell the rights to a publishing company, they will give you 18%. That's right. Your portion of the 100% is only 18% with a regular author contract. If you self-publish and let Amazon sell it for you, then your cut is 70%. So that's not a bad deal. Also, Barnes & Noble sells books, again, for pretty much the same basis. There's another company called Smashwords that will sell it to you and only take 20%. So you keep 80%, they take 20%. The advantage of Smashwords is that they also, in all three cases, they're primarily, they will, if you want Amazon to do it, they will sell a printed book. But that split of 70-30 is based on ebooks that they're selling. But Smashwords will do both. They will sell your ebook on their site, also help you sell it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And if anybody wants the printed version, they'll print on demand, which is part of what my previous presentation talked about. So they go into a realm of doing both. They presume that most people will buy the ebook, but if somebody wants a printed copy, they will print one and bind it and send it to them. Their current printing, while it does cost less per book if you print 100,000 copies, you also end up with inventory that you can't sell. And so there are a number of companies now that would prefer just charging just a little bit more, perhaps, to print on demand, but end up with no inventory. And so that's what Smashwords does. They let people have a choice. We'll sell you the ebook for a certain price, or maybe for double that price, we'll print the book for you and you get a printed copy of it. So the book industry is more than the commercial and academic options. It's also Author 2.0, where you can be the author, you can be the producer, you can be the publisher, you can own the copyright, and you can market it through Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Smashwords and people like that. So anyway, with that, I'll stop. I just wanted to, since this is the last presentation, last chapter of the book, just wanted to help expand your understanding of what you're capable of doing during your careers. It's not all writing for a newspaper or working at a TV station. There are actually more opportunities outside. In this current age, those jobs are dwindling. PR is increasing, marketing is increasing, and the blend of that needs people with your skills. Those that know who can do social media, free marketing and paid marketing is now the trend. And so with your skills in video, your skills in writing and editing that you're developing, you have that opportunity to go into marketing if you choose to do PR or, again, inbound marketing specifically. And any marketing company that knows what they're talking about will also want you to do native advertising, because it's essentially, like I say, essentially the same as the free postings and stuff. It is made to look like it's not advertising. And that'll be 75% of all online advertising in just 2 or 3 years from now, according to expert extrapolations. So with that, I'll stop.